So I'm often asked about inverted poses in yoga practice, especially when people have been practicing for a while. And inversions are a little challenging at first, but once you get the feel for the basic inversions, then the more advanced ones are a little easier to accommodate. So I like to teach inversions in progressions. First, the most basic inverted pose in yoga is the legs up the wall pose. Okay? So traditionally, legs up the wall is done against a wall. And really with a lot of yoga poses, balancing poses, as well as some of the bigger flexibility poses, are really best practiced against a wall. It gives you a little bit of training wheels, if you will, in case you're tipping over backwards. But it also allows you to get deeper into a lot of stretches. So I really do like to utilize the wall a lot in my classes and in my one-on-one sessions with clients. So legs up the wall. I typically get people to bring their hip right against the wall so that they're very close into the wall. Then we'll come down to the mat and turn so that we're getting our hips right into that place where the floor and the wall meet. And so here's legs up the wall. And it's actually a very relaxing, restorative pose, and we spend time just here. And so this is really a great place to start off. First of all, there's a fair amount of flexibility that's even required here to get people into this 90-degree angle. The flexibility through the hamstrings needs to be there first. So if it's not there, we take them so that their hips are away from the wall a little more, or we do it what I would call freestanding, where it's away from the wall altogether. The other good thing about taking it here is that we can then build into shoulder stand, and we can progress that quite easily. So softening the knees, we place our feet against the wall. We teach people how to pick up through the hips and making sure that they're on their upper back and shoulders rather than on their neck. We'll then take the hands underneath the hips here, giving ourselves a bigger base of support because now we're resting on the upper arm. And then we can start to experiment with taking 1 or 2 feet off the wall. And this gets the people biomechanically in the place that they need to be before they really should start taking their legs up above their heads. So once we can get people here, then it's a matter of taking legs up and then aligning into a shoulder stand. Okay, so once you're able to do a shoulder stand against the wall, you really are doing a freestanding shoulder stand at that point. It would look the same thing as if you were to do it here. So, onto your back, pressing and extending up here. Okay, usually when we do freestanding, we might start off in a piped position first, taking less of the body weight, and then lifting up and aligning. Okay, and of course you can hinge from the hips and take the feet over the head. That's your halasana or plow pose. But again, that's just essentially, it's the same pose, just if you have the hamstring flexibility to actually flex enough at your hips to get your toes to touch over your head. So, shoulder stand being the next progression up in terms of inversions from a legs up the wall pose. After that, we're really starting to look at the poses where you're inverting your body and either bearing your body weight on your forearms or on your hands. And so in order to accomplish those poses, so those would be your forearm balance poses, your headstands, which technically I don't really balance ever on my head, it's all on my weight of my forearms, and then of course the handstands that you can do. All of these poses require you to be pretty strong through your upper body and really strong through your core. It's your stability through your core that's going to keep you upright. That and, your biomechanical alignment. So as we're developing core strength, I like to teach the biomechanical alignment. So I accomplish that first by doing something called the Dolphin Pose. Dolphin, as I'll demonstrate in a sec, looks a lot like downward facing dog, except that it's performed from the forearms. And what I do with my Dolphin Pose is teach that basic progression of bringing your hips up over your shoulders and being able to feel yourself aligned in space. Looks like this. So, first of all, I'm going to teach the first piece of the alignment, which is making sure you have the appropriate width of your arms apart. So I do teach people this, that they should be touching the webbing between their thumb and index fingers towards their biceps, and that's where they set down in position here. Now from here, for forearm balance, you can take your hands just here pressing into your fingertips. If you're taking it in preparation for a headstand, I would usually take my hands here, lace the fingers, and gently cup my hands so I have a place to put my head inside of my hands. But in any case, most of my body weight is going to be here on my forearms. So from here, we tuck our toes under, lift through the hips, And as we exhale, pressing back towards the heel, similar to down dog, except from the forearms. So ears are still beside the biceps here. Now, the point of this is to get us in a position where we can start to play with our body weight. And that is to feel the body coming forward and aligning here, right? I typically won't pick them off their feet yet. It's just finding this point. And that's the point when you feel I can take my feet off the ground, strengthen my core, and let my legs come up. And for someone like myself who has longer legs, we really do need to have that core strength because we're picking up a lot of body weight doing that. That's really the key next step. After we've taught this particular progression and we're feeling confident that people can find when is when, then I start looking at other ways of progressing this and adding more body weight. That's when I will go back and use the wall again. Alright, so after you've gotten people to the point where they can perform a dolphin pose, they can take their dolphin and bring their hips up and align them over their shoulders, then they're probably going to be ready for these next steps. I do what I call L positions against the wall. L positions can be performed from the elbows, which will again help you with your forearm balances, or from the hands. Okay, and there's a technique to this, and people for some reason tend to slip on the wall. The thing I try to teach when I first start teaching against the wall, as in the shoulder stand, is to really push into the wall and use it as resistance. Otherwise, people are very timid and their feet will slip. So that's a big thing to watch for if you're doing this yourself at home or if you're an instructor teaching this to other people. So first of all, we want to make sure we're in the right position. One of the biggest things you'll see when you see people first starting out is they don't know when is when. And so they're not in an L, their legs are up high, and they're really more in this pike position. It's usually not a hamstring flexibility thing, but it looks like it is. So I just want to point that out. Here's how you avoid that altogether. Get people so they're pointing their toes right into the wall. Take yourself down, and let's say it's a forearm balance first, right? We get our alignment, just like I mentioned. Taking your hands here with your hands forward, or again, I always tend to cup. I very rarely don't cup my hands, even in regular forearm balance. So now we're going to lift the hips up and gently walk up the wall until we're at a place where we can extend the legs and create an L with our body. Okay? This is giving us a lot more body weight, and it's going to feel more like what people are feeling when they don't have the assistance of the wall. Again, depending on how much you push into the wall, you can give or take away as much of your body weight really as you like. It's a pretty interesting thing to play with. So that's what L position looks like if we're working from our forearms. Here's what it looks like if you're working from your hands. Same thing. For handstands, you always want to give yourself a wide space as possible, right? So spread your fingers wide like you would in downward facing dog. Press into your fingertips, but also press into your hands so you can feel where your balancing points are in your hands. So taking your hands wide, okay? Making sure your hands are under your shoulders. That's huge. Okay, lift your hips, walk your feet up the wall. Okay? And we're just looking for good alignment here. Holding it only to the point where people feel confident. A couple of seconds, build on the strength, okay? Really, it's about getting that alignment first. That's how we do L positions against the wall. Once we're comfortable with L positions, we're comfortable holding our body weight up, then, and only then, do we really want to start doing what you see a lot of people doing, and that's going right away to kicking up the wall. And I'll show you how you can do this without kicking.